welcome, Kristen Jungles. Thanks for hanging out with me today. You have a really cool story, and what's fun to watch from the outside is your focus and your determination and your grit and your get stuff done. Because would you agree that that's why you are the success that you are today?
Yeah, I would say that it really started with focus. And I don't know that I will ever be able to repay you, Jenny, for like setting me on the path of how I run my business now. I mean, I of course was a, early adopter of like your classes. You posted it in one of the chats of a call that I was on. And when I was on there, I took Mirror My Business and literally just started running your playbook. So I'm running your playbook in the Chicagoland area.
Well, and wow, thank you. I appreciate all that. And guess what? Like all the things that I shared were just the lessons I've learned through my mistakes and failures and getting feedback back on how to be a professional in this industry, but also have a life, right? Because like Kristen, we could grind it more and more every single day, but at the end of the day, you're probably most proud of your family and your community giving and your connections with people, right?
Yeah, I mean, I look at the life that we've built right now, and I think that, I even call my lead generation time making connections. So for me, it's all about like how I can connect with people. But Brett and Trevor, my kids, they're 29 and 26, and then my husband Kevin, and we've been married for 31 years. Like that is, that's everything to me. And so the fact that, we're in August right now. I've been to Florida, I think I don't know, three or four times so far this year, like, because my older son lives down there. And, and I'm very purposeful about making sure, like Gary Keller says, that those family vacations go on the calendar first. So, yeah, and now I think about the things I'm doing. I mean, I'm a gardener now, like I
I
did
love
that for
it.
the first time this year, but it literally is on my calendar too. So, I subscribe to the if it's not on your calendar, it doesn't exist. So everything's on my calendar: vacations, lead generation time with family and friends, and even gardening outside.
I love it so much. Well, but all of that is done because you chose to be purposeful. And so, what do you know now that you wish you knew earlier, or the lesson you learned, that defining moment that got you to where you are today?
Yeah, if I look back on when I started, for sure, I would have played all in from the beginning. I think the biggest mistake that agents make is that, we're secret agents at the beginning, right? Like we don't want to tell everybody what we offer. And I'm reading a really good book right now, Becoming More, that Diana Kokoska wrote. And she said, we need to step into our greatness. Like we need to step into the gift that we can offer our community. And so when I started to look at my business that way, like I have things of value that I could provide to people in our community, and I just need to make sure everybody knows about it. That's what I would have done from the start, because I didn't. I hesitated. I called some people. Now I'm very purposeful. Like I know how many conversations that I need to have. More importantly, I know how many appointments need to be on my calendar in order for me to hit the goals and my legacy goals that we have for ourselves. So that's probably my first thing I would say. From the very beginning, I would have talked to more people.
So, Kristen, I'm just going to put it out there for those of us with different behavioral styles who may feel like that's icky, that's uncomfortable. What would you share from your lessons and life of growing through that with those that that doesn't sound good to them?
Well, it's also uncomfortable when your bills come in for the month and you're not quite sure how you're going to pay them, right? So, I mean, it's also uncomfortable if you have to look at your kids and say that, no, we won't be able to do that this year because I didn't do my job, right? So it always puzzles me how many of us have come from other careers, whatever it was. We all did something before this. I was a lobbyist for the Realtors, so I was in our industry, but if Friday came and I wasn't done with a project that was due, I would stay late to get it done. And yet somehow realtors don't subscribe to that same discipline when they're here and they're running their own business and you're your own CEO. So I always think of it like that. Like, would I hire me did I earn the right to be the CEO of the Jungles Group this week? And I make sure that I step into that every single week, and that the work gets done and I don't leave anything on the table. I mean, I think, we're watching right now, I'm an Olympics junkie. So like I'm watching all these Olympians, and every time an Olympian is interviewed, they say, I always thought I wanted to win a medal. Like they know the goal, right?
Wow.
And then they also say, like, I left it all in the pool, or I left it all on the track, I left it all, whatever their sport happens to be, they left it all on the table. And I just wish that as realtors, we would play all in and be that passionate about what we're doing for people in our community. Because if you were, you'd be hitting the goal.
Well, your top lead sources and places where your business come from are in alignment with who you are and what you love. So share with us how you've built a business that allows you to be yourself while still help so many families buy and sell houses.
Well, as far as how I built the business, I did follow your model. So when you talked about we need to have events, I very reluctantly planned my first event, and I was so worried nobody would show up, and it was such a hit. And we had 4 referrals come out of our first event, and I'm like, wait a minute, I should start doing more events, right? So I mean, I ran your playbook. When you said do giveaways, I did giveaways. Like whatever you said, I did. And but I would tell you, I mean, it went right from like mirror my business to implement my business. And I was like, I'm going to implement it at a high level. But I will say my business comes from my 3 main sources, my sphere of influence, my in community. I kind of group them in one. So it's my sphere, it's new construction. It's a big portion of my business. And then finally it's open houses. Like I look at open houses now, I see agents that get to a certain level of their business and then they stop doing open houses. I'm like, why? If you were we know the response to every single objection now better than anything. You know that in year 6 or 7, you might not have known it in year 1. This is the time that we can convert, right? So those are my 3 main sources of business. And I think that what I do is I run my GPS based on all of like where we're going to do our business. And I also I have a report you shared with us once that was your mid-year review report. I look at that every single month for us now and say, where are we hitting? Like, where are our leads coming from? And not necessarily because we have so many referrals coming in. If not for open houses and new construction, we'd probably be close to 100% referral. But we run in the 80s on referral because I do this other portion of my business. But then I look at where did those referrals come from? For example, I have somebody that we just closed on a house. I was referred to her by her sister. I was referred to her sister by another client that was referred to me by a realtor. So like, it's like, where did they initially start with you? And then, where did they come from? And that's what you need to focus on, for running your top 3.
Well, what I heard you say is that first off, just tracking where your business comes from allows you to double down and focus even more on that source. Because if you don't know and you are just winging it every day, you might be putting your energy and your time, your blood, your sweat, your tears into the wrong area. So have you ever in all these 6 years of your growth had the point where you're like, oh, I wasted a lot of time on that thing?
There have been things that I wasted time on because I think that you look at other people doing it and you think that it'll work for you. And I do believe that we have to stay focused on what our personalities are, what's going to work for our community. One size doesn't fit all when it comes to lead generation efforts, I don't think. So I don't call expireds. I just don't. Like, it's just not in my wheelhouse to call expireds. Now, if I wanted to double down on listings or triple down on listings, it might sneak in, right? But otherwise, it's not where I'm going to put most of my work.
Yeah, well, that's so important. And I think the word grace came to mind inside of your comments just then, because I get to talk to some of you every now and then. As a member of our Momentum group, you get to have a call with me each month. I'd love to chat even more. But sometimes we beat ourselves up because we're holding ourselves to the standard of what the implied standard, what we think everyone is doing to succeed at a high level. And then we start getting our momentum going, and then we might start feeling overwhelmed, especially if we're a solo agent. We don't have leverage in certain areas of our lives. And so I just really want to say it. And I remember Jordan Freed told me this one time. He's like, Jennie, not everyone is always calling everyone in their database 4 times a year. So just bless and release it. Give yourself some grace. If you miss a month, if you miss a cycle, it's okay, because when you're running, Kristen, like we talked about, an events plan where at least once a quarter or more, you're touching them and talk to them and hanging out with them, engaging with them, they're still feeling and seeing and hearing you anyway. And so I think that, I mean, have you experienced that yourself, where you have compared yourself to
Yes.
others?
Yes, I will tell you, I used to look at the production sheet in my office, and it would come out every month, to the point where the marketing person in our market center started printing me a copy because she knows that I looked at it, right? And I would post it on my wall and I would look at it. I spent more time looking at that wall of what the production was for those people. And finally I thought, you know what? I don't know why they want to hit that number, right? Like, I mean, I never, and when I stopped looking at it, I mean, my best year ever, when the production that I had in my, not last year, the year prior to that, I think to myself, like, I couldn't have even imagined that in my wildest dreams when I started. When I started, I just wanted to make 100,000 a year. And now I think of, could you do that in a month, right? Like, can you actually have $100,000 a month? And it was because I put that away and I started to focus more on my own goals and my own, the reason, the big why behind why I do this every single day. And when I put that sheet to the side, I'm now in the top 10 in our office. Like, I put it to the side and I just put my head down and I started working, and I didn't worry about anybody else because, I don't know why they're doing what they do. And I am the only salesperson on my team, right? It's just me. And so when I look at myself in the top 10 and I'm like, well, all those other people that are on the list, like, they have at least more than one salesperson on their, on their team that's working for them. And, that's not me. So I just have to stay in my own lane, stay focused on my own goals, and my having a coach that guides me through that I talk to every single week keeps me very focused on why, what my objectives are and why I need to have X amount of closings.
So you mentioned a coach, and whether it's a coach you pay, but someone in your office or a mentor, that, I mean, accountability is key. Did you have a coach right out of the gate, or is this something you had to grow into?
No, I didn't have a coach right out of the gate, and I wish I would have. Like, I mean, I said to my coach, I met John at Mega Camp last year. So I told him this week, I'm like, oh, it's going to be our anniversary. And when I met him at an airport and on the way back from Mega Camp. And he said, did Mega Camp meet your expectations this year? And I said, it didn't. And he goes, why? And I go, well, I came here for a coach. Like, I need to find a coach. Somebody needs to coach me. He goes, tell me more about that. And then we talked. And he goes, well, I am a MAPS coach, so I'd love to talk to you. We then took that to a 2-hour conversation once I got back here and he was back in St. Louis, and we talked about it. And he has changed the game for me in terms of what I'm able to do for my business. I mean, I look at it now, and where I'm at with my business and production this year, like year to date right now, well, we're right now closed and pending, I'm at my best year ever already, and it's August. So, but he challenges me to make sure that I'm adding one qualified lead to my pipeline every single day, and or setting an appointment and holding me accountable to making sure that that gets done. He knows what my financial goals are. Like, he knows, he just, challenged me recently and said, I'm just curious, like, you can't reach through the Zoom and yell at me, but if you want, but you can't hit me. But I'm just wondering why you're not having the same disciplines with your health goals that you have with your business goals. And I'm like, ouch. And he's right. I mean, he said, I think you need to go get off your Peloton and go to a gym where you could see people, interact with people that know that you're going to show up every day. And he's right. It lends itself to my personality. So my coach pushes me in a really big way. And then And I also think, I always told the boys growing up, like, you define yourself by the company you keep. And Diana even talks about it in this book, like, you are the product of the people that you surround yourself with. And so I have been very purposeful about making sure I'm around big thinkers, right? Like, when I was going down to Oklahoma City to meet with Mo Anderson, we made sure that we stopped in Tulsa and had lunch with you, Jennie. Like, we left that conversation having lunch with you fired up about, how do we get A to Z in investment properties, right? Like, I mean, it's surround yourself with big thinkers, because when you are thinking bigger, you will produce more, which means you're going to give more. It means that when somebody calls me and says, will you sponsor our little league team for $500? And they immediately start to say, but if you could only give $250, that's okay. I'm like, no, $500 done. Right? Because you think bigger, and then likewise you act a different way when you work your business. So I
Oh
think
my
it all
gosh.
comes together.
So much goodness in that, Kristen. What I heard was that, once you have this growth in your mindset and in your business and your life, you can't go back. Like, now it's possible.
Mhm.
You are possible. And like you said of Diana's book, and I remember this from taking bold a few times, is that I remember, and it became my mantra, is like, I bet on me. There's no one better to bet on.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I have the power inside of me, and your abundant mindset. Have you always had a mindset of abundance, or has it been a work through over the years?
It has been a lot of personal development and growth over the years. Like, uh, if you go back to before COVID, I wasn't even a reader except for reading the MREA and the one thing. I wasn't a reader. Now I'm reading like 3 to 4 books in a month. And I can't get enough of personal development and wealth building and things that I'm really passionate about. So I would say that growth has come over time. And but I think I also know that, like, when I became a reader, I created a book club, right? Like, who am I to have a book club? Like, that was never on my radar, but then it gives me the opportunity to be around other people that are growing and learning and becoming more. And so I think that the growth, you have to be open to it for sure. And you have to know that as you're growing, you're going to fail, and failure is okay. It's an opportunity to learn. And then we pivot fast, and we do, we change course. Like, every event I've done since you told me to start doing events, they haven't all been like hugely attended, right? But I got to the point where I don't really care who shows up to our events. I care that I have 5 contacts before and 2 after, and some social media sprinkling in between. Like, I don't, so I changed my mindset around events, and then our business, we have more business coming from events. Like, it's just, I think you fail forward all the time.
All the time, all the time. Well, something
Mhm.
just to go back to, because I know I like, as you know, having everyone have some tactical, applicable tools. So today is no different. So you said something, and I know you've shared this many times before, but in case people haven't heard it yet, you shared that you and your coach get really clear. So you get small in order to go
Mhm.
big. So you're
Yes.
getting small each day with your lead gen, your conversations, your weekly tally. What exactly is your plan like?
Mhm. So it's funny because we always do this on the call. We go small to go big, right? It's
Yeah.
small first. So um every day that I have making connections on my calendar, that's my lead generation time. Every day I'm making connections. My goal is to add one qualified lead to the pipeline and or set one appointment. When I started that last year with my coach, it was to set any appointment, buyer consultation or listing consultation. Now it has to be a listing consultation or an equity analysis review. It can't be a buy. I mean, I still set buyer consultations, but it can't, that doesn't count anymore. It makes it more challenging. So there was a little bit of a push. So what has resulted by doing that is, at any given time, my pipeline report, it's a 1-pager. I look at it every week. Trevor and I are both looking at it because it has anybody that could buy, sell, invest with us in the next 12 months. So like right now, my pipeline report has like $38 million on it. So, and it's broken down like the 0 to 3, 4 to 7, 4 to 6, 7 plus. So like I know who I'm calling all the time. And so the other thing is on my calendar for making connections, I have 30 minutes of lead gen prep, like making connections prep. Then I have 2 hours of making connections. And then I have a 30 minutes of data bank follow-up. So if somebody says to me on the call that, during making my calls, like Kristen, I want to be able to buy a property. We're looking for an investment property, want to spend up to 400,000. I don't stop what I'm doing and start searching for that house. It's on data bank follow-up. So that's where all the notes go in. That's where the tasks go in. That's where you get added to the pipeline. Like that's my follow-up so that I stay very focused. There are days where I get to 11 o'clock and I haven't hit it yet. It's non-negotiable. So I need to go find it. So whether I'm door knocking, stopping by business owners, because I know that they're going to be open, making additional call time, it is non-negotiable. So that I have to find a qualified lead every day.
So you don't get your number, you got to go out for lunch to find some business because you haven't achieved that appointment or that new qualified lead yet. What do you say to people?
So it comes by way of like today on Facebook, I made a post about a property that is absolutely gorgeous that's coming soon.
Right.
My Facebook Messenger lit up with people. I had somebody that messaged me and Larry said, Kristen, what is the price of that house? And I told him what the price was. He goes, what's the square footage? I'm like, Larry, I wasn't aware that you were looking for a townhome. And then Larry starts to tell me what he's looking for because he needs elevator at some point to care for his mom and he's going to have to move out of his house. That was a Facebook post. So, I mean, so now I know that Larry's looking, right? If we found the right property, would Larry pull the trigger? Sure. Right. But it's a pipeline. It's an addition to my pipeline that I wasn't aware of. So social media, you could find it. Door knocking, you could find it. Additional phone calls, text messages. I mean, you will, but we're also consistent doing equity analysis. So, so those are always going out. There's always a reason for me to call somebody.
Yeah, I love it. Well, you've built the plan and you run the play. So whenever, like everything that I've shared and you've learned from all your other trainings and classes and groups, you have been a great student, but you've done what is most important, which is getting into action and implementing.
I mean, implement my business. Like when you look at it, your playbook that you provided to the people in Momentum is just like the playbook that Gary's provided in the MREA, right? It is exactly how you have to run the play. I may not do the exact same event that you do, but it's the playbook for how I need to run that event, right? Like you do pies at Thanksgiving, I think. We do pies on Pie Day.
Right.
Why? Because my family's all in town on Thanksgiving. I'm not going to spend a day with my clients picking up pies when Brett's in from Florida and Trevor's out from the city, right? I'm not going to do that. So we do it on Pie Day. So I just modified your plays to fit my lifestyle and my work-life balance. So I think anybody can do it. You just have to do the work.
Well, that's right. And yeah, thank you for comparing what I've shared with you to, the GOAT of our industry and the books and the playbooks called, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. But I think what I was attempting to do was to take what they've built, but then give you the actually, here's how you actually do it kind of ideas, because that's the way I learn best is like I get and understand what they're saying here, but what does it really look like in this business and how would I really say it? All right. So share with everyone just some final words or insights or inspirations about you, about how you've grown and how your life is going and what they should do to be like you, Kristen.
Well, I would just tell everybody to stop playing small. It doesn't serve you. And I don't think that, I mean, I do think about the time that you were sitting in front of me in Safety Harbor, Jennie, and James asked for all the MREAs to stand up in the room. And there was like 4 of you that stood up. And I thought right then and there, I want to stand in that room, right? Like I want to be the one to stand. And then I just had to work through a GPS and a 411 that could get me there. And we're going to be close. Like we're going to be really, really close. And I will get there. I just think that people need to stop playing small, because when you can start to give back to your kids in a really big way, and give back to your community in a really big way, and live a life like, that you couldn't have imagined otherwise, it really doesn't take that many appointments to make that happen, right? It just doesn't. So I just think that people need to stop playing small and just say, what do you really want out of your life? And figure out what it is that you really want, put a price to it of how how much it's going to cost, and then figure out, do you make sure you have the disciplines to make sure that you get it done, whether it's in 3 or 5 years.
I love it so much. Thanks for so much, Kristen, for sharing your story. And it is inspiring. I don't know if you see the chat. Anna says, so inspiring. And then also Jennifer says, it's inspiring to hear from Kristen. We need to think bigger with our goals. So
For sure.
thank you for
Thank
making
you.
act. All right. I'll see you guys later.
Thanks,
Have a great
guys.
day.
Have a good
Bye.
one.